We are back live in Chicago, Illinois. It's cold outside in the Windy City, but we had a hot night of action inside the United Center. With tonight's fights, a couple of title pictures look much clearer. We'll break that all down. This is the UFC post-fight show on Fuel TV.
Takedown. He's got the hands all over. Oh, Bill. Bill. He's down. He's out. Oh, goodness.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Jay Glazer here with my man Kenny Florian, and fight fans are heading to their cars here at the sold-out United Center, but we're not going anywhere. Kenny, what a great night of fights we had here in Chicago.
Unbelievable night of fights here. You know, we were here for two reasons. We wanted to find out who was going to fight for the belt against Anderson Silva at 185 and who was going to fight John Jones at 205, and we have our answer. It is Chael Sonnen and it is Rashad Evans. And very, very excited. Great fights.
Well, coming off that main event, let's get right to that. Sugar Rashad Evans needed to win to earn a title shot against the light heavyweight champion, John Bones Jones. He had to go through Mr. Wonderful, Phil Davis, and he did so.
You know, we talked about who would be the best wrestler going into this fight, and really it was Rashad Evans. We knew that Phil Davis had the pedigree, but Rashad Evans really just put it together better. He was capitalizing on the kicks of Phil Davis, and once he was on the ground, he was very, very dominant. And even when he did get taken down, he was able to reverse position, landed some great sweeps and reversals there against Phil, and really the difference also was on the feet. He just looked more comfortable. He was landing and putting together better combinations, and that was the difference.
And the great thing about Rashad Evans, you and I talked about it, he follows his game plan better than anybody besides George St. Pierre. You know, if he has to go against a guy like Rampage, his game plan was to press the action. But here against Phil, you could tell he was going to lay back, wait for him to get a little frustrated, and then you saw Phil make some mistakes and Rashad capitalized.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, he really looked to counter Phil throughout the fight early in the rounds, and he was countering very, very well, both with his wrestling and with his striking. And then he started pressing a little bit, just a beautiful execution of a good game plan.
Now, you have actually rolled with Rashad Evans.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what you told me off camera.
I think that he's responsible for my back injury. You know, I mean, this guy is so heavy, his hips, his pressure. I've gone with other guys, his weight, but haven't felt anything but as far as his strength and his pressure at a guy his size.
So he's able to put pressure on you with his hips that other All-American wrestlers can't do.
I was sore for 2 weeks after rolling with Rashad Evans. Oh yeah.
Okay, now
not fun.
Let's look on the flip side of that. And Phil Davis, we were watching also, he said, wow, I'd love to work with him on his transition from wrestling to striking and back and forth. Explain.
Phil has so much potential. He's still a little bit green, and as far as putting it all together, he should have been sitting down a little bit more on his punches. He was a little bit too tall, and anytime you're throwing in middle kicks or you're going a little bit too low with a kick against another wrestler, it's not a good idea because you're going to get taken down. You have to really pick and choose when to do that. You typically throw a kick when the guy's going backwards, you can throw it low. But if you're kind of in the middle of the cage and you throw a kick that's either low or a middle kick, you go into the ribs, you're going to get taken down, and that's where Rashad really was capitalizing against Phil Davis.
You know, another thing about Rashad is he's grown as a fighter exponentially over the last couple of years. Where do you think he's improved the most?
You know, I just think just putting it all together, it's the same thing that Phil needs to work on. And granted, you know, Rashad has a lot of experience. He's been in a lot of the big fights. He's made his mistakes, but him and his team have really done a great job of filling in those little holes and putting it all together in that transitional game. And that's where Phil needs to improve, but really that's where Rashad has improved the most, and he just looks more comfortable in there. It's not the same Rashad that went in against Machida and looked like he was very nervous.
I remember after that fight talking to Rashad, he said, why did I not follow my game plan? And that's the only time you hear that. Now on the other side, Phil Davis. Phil, you and I talked about it. Was this going to be too big for him? I don't think it was. I was actually impressed how much he stepped up. Look, he's just I think tonight Rashad was just the better fighter.
These are the kind of fights that, you know, it's hard after a loss. You know, you're very depressed, you know, you're angry, you're sad, all these things. But looking back, these are the fights you're going to love, because this is where Phil Davis is really going to learn from this. He's going to realize, you know what, my hands need to improve. I need to be more comfortable with my striking, and I need to lower my level just a little bit more to aid my wrestling. And I tell you what, Phil Davis is going to be a scary dude, you know, down the line.
I tell you what, though, folks, we get a super fight, if you will, of Johnny Bones Jones against Sugar Rashad Evans. Let's break that one down. Now, I think going into this, everybody thought Bones Jones, he's untouchable.
Yeah.
But for Rashad, he certainly has some skills where he can do damage.
Listen, if he bleeds, you can kill it, all right? And Rashad Evans knows Jon Jones very well, and that's going to be a huge advantage for him. And who knows, maybe Jon Jones has this big brother syndrome. He's a guy who used to look up to Rashad. You know, Rashad was his senior guy. He was the veteran in training camp, and maybe he still sees Rashad Evans that way. And, you know, that's a very interesting fight. Anytime you get two fighters in there that know each other very well, anything can happen. And in this game, anything can happen.
But I think also Rashad will go in there and say, wait a minute, this isn't the same Johnny Jones that I used to roll with.
This is true. This is true.
Does Rashad have any advantage in that fight?
You know what? I think he's the faster man. I think he hits harder than Jon Jones. Jon Jones, you know, very quick, a dynamic striker. But Rashad Evans, although we didn't quite see it today, he's got knockout power. We saw it against Chuck Liddell. We've seen it in the past in some of his other fights, whether it's kicking or punching. If he lands it on the button, you're going to sleep.
The problem also, I think, with going against John Bones Jones is, how do you really spar to prepare for him? You can't find somebody who does the same acrobatic stuff that he does, and you can't find anybody with his reach.
I talk about this a lot. There's problems. Problems are good because they can be solved. Dilemmas cannot. It's either bad or very bad, and Jon Jones has that. He has a tremendous reach, so he'll keep you on the outside. And guess what? If you get on the inside, then he can use his wrestling. So it's a very tough thing for any fighter to face a guy like Jon Jones. And he's just so dynamic, and he's fearless out there. He'll try any move to beat you.
Give me your game plan. If you're Rashad Evans, give me your game plan going into it right now against Bones.
Gee,
Can we
bring a gun in the octagon?
Last I saw, that's not legal.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. The key is he's going to have to get inside consistently and show Jon Jones that he hits harder. He's got to get his respect early on, and he has to thwart the wrestling. And from there, he can start to cause some confusion and some doubt in the head of Jon Jones and slowly break him down.
I'm excited for that one, folks. Later on tonight, we'll actually have an interview with the winner. We should get Sugar Rashad Evans up here. Hey, real quick also, one last thing about that one. I think we finally saw that Bones Jones had a chin.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Phil Davis. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
no, Bones Jones in that last fight.
Oh, in his last fight. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. Rashad, I mean, Machida caught him very well, and that's the thing. We wanted to see what would happen with Jon Jones if he got caught. He got caught, and he recovered very well.
Folks, plenty more to come as we roll on with the UFC on Fuel post-fight show. All right, folks. Again, later on we'll have interviews with Rashad Evans, get his thoughts after tonight's win. And don't forget to catch UFC Tonight, the official news and information show of the UFC. Join host Todd Harris and Kenny Florian for exclusive coverage of the UFC from every angle. Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, only on Fuel TV. We'll be back right after this.
Remember this, when you're the greatest fighter in the world today, they got a name for you. They don't call you a great fighter, they call you Chael Sonnen. Beat me, if you can.
Chael Sonnen, ladies and gentlemen.
There is no better hype man in the game than Chael Sonnen. Hey, few can actually back it up. Chael Sonnen certainly can and did tonight in the octagon against Michael Bisping. Kenny, Michael Bisping obviously came in here for a title shot against Chael Sonnen. But Chael did a little bit more than we thought. He actually stood on his feet more than we believed he would.
He did. Well, you know, Michael Bisping was very impressive in getting back to his feet. He was very impressive with his counter wrestling. You know, Bisping used to fight at 205. A lot of people forget that. He is not a small or weak guy. This is a guy who really challenged Chael out there. You know, just very impressed with his ability to get back to his feet and to counter wrestle Chael Sonnen.
Chael has won 7 of his last 9, earned a middleweight title rematch versus Anderson Silva. Michael Bisping lost for the first time in 5 fights, now 12-4 in the UFC. And I tell you what, you want to talk about a fight that everybody's been waiting for. We talk about Chael Sonnen being a hype man. He finally gets it against Anderson Silva. The last time they fought, Chael Sonnen certainly took it to Anderson, but it doesn't matter who does what all the way up until you raise somebody's hand, and obviously Anderson got his hand raised with that triangle.
This is true. What we cannot forget, that Sonnen dominated this fight for 4 rounds. The only guy to really dominate Anderson Silva. 4.5,
right.
Exactly. And, you know, he did get caught in the end. He feels that that was just a little slip up in the end. Actually, he still thinks he's undefeated. But anyways, you know, he has to avoid the submission game, he feels, and if he does that, he thinks he's going to run right through Anderson Silva.
Anderson Silva's a guy, you know, he's watched the Chael Sonnen show for a while.
Yeah.
Do you think that Chael's doing this to try and get Anderson to kind of lose it out there? What's his motivation?
Yeah, I'm sure he's trying to get in the head of Anderson Silva. I mean, that's without a question. He did it in the first fight, and he's also trying to get inside Anderson Silva's head because he did dominate him in that first fight. And to go back in there and do it again would be something else. And I tell you what, he's got the style. He's proved in the first fight he's got the style to beat Anderson Silva. And if he does it, it would be an amazing, amazing win.
I tell you, I was really impressed tonight with Michael Bisping, just being able to scramble the way he did. Once Chael Sonnen took Bisping down, we all said, uh-oh, here it is, it's over. And that's not what happened.
I tell you what, we have to remember, again, that Michael Bisping took this fight on short notice. He was very impressive. He stayed right in there, you know, really gave Sonnen a lot of problems there. In the 3rd round, it seemed like Sonnen really started to get the better positioning. But listen, although Bisping lost this fight, I was very, very impressed with his performance.
So let's look ahead now to that fight with Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva. What do you think Anderson's going to do differently than he did the last time?
Well, listen, when you're going against Chael Sonnen, he's always going to pressure. He's always going to go forward. Anderson Silva, what he does best with his striking is his ability to counter-strike. You know, they say that the ultimate mastery when it comes to striking, Bruce Lee used to say this, is the counter-striker. And Anderson Silva has that. He'll catch you when you're going forward, and he can really slip it up. If he can time Chael as he comes in, like Bisping was, he can definitely rock him and take him out, because Anderson Silva has some serious power and amazing precision. If he catches Chael on the way in, much better, like, you know, than he did in the first fight, it could be a short night for Chael Sonnen.
Do you think Chael sometimes tonight tried to keep it on his feet just to show something in his game plan? Maybe just show something ahead to Anderson? Or you think that that was more a result of Bisping?
I think he was being a little bit more patient. You know, Bisping was ready and prepared for Chael's entry into the double leg. He was moving very, very well. Anderson Silva has tremendous footwork as well. What I've liked to see a little bit more from Chael Sonnen are those fakes. A little bit more fakes and keep the guy guessing. He was kind of just charging in, and against a guy like Anderson Silva, you can't just charge in, because once he times you, you're in trouble.
Well, Chael, we know he could fight anywhere. You put him in a box somewhere, he's fine, okay? But Anderson, if he fights in Brazil, in this monster fight, is that good for him with everybody behind him, or bad?
Listen, it can go 2 ways. A lot of times that puts a lot of pressure on a fighter. You know, I know when I fought in Boston, it was crazy. I mean,
and everybody in Boston loves you. Forget Larry Bird. It's about Kenny Florian.
And everyone's asking me for tickets. I mean, you can't concentrate. And imagine for Anderson Silva, it must be to the nth degree. So he's got to be careful, not only of the pressure out there, but performing in his hometown. You know, all the distractions. It's big time.
Well, Michael Bisping certainly not fighting in his hometown, but again, had a really good showing tonight. Right now, Michael Bisping is backstage with our Ariel Helwani.
Mike, do you think you did enough to win that fight?
Well, first of all, I just want to say congratulations to Chael Sonnen. Excuse me, he obviously did enough in the judges' eyes to win the fight, so congratulations to Chael. Personally, I think I won the first 2 rounds. I think there's no question he got the 3rd round, although if I had another round, I probably would have stopped him, I feel. He even said to me after the fight, before the decision was announced, he said, "What do you think, Mike?" And I said, honestly, I think I got the first 2 rounds. And he said, "I think you might be right." But as I said, you know, it was a good fight, competitive. Congratulations to Chael Sonnen. He did enough in the judges' eyes to win the fight.
Despite the loss, do you feel as though you answered some questions about your wrestling here tonight?
Absolutely. Well, listen, you know, I mean, I always try my best to put on entertaining fights. I feel that was a good fight. You've always got supporters. You've always got haters, for want of a better word. I'm always going to have my detractors, and you know, I don't give it a second thought. People always ask me about it. That's why I seem to talk about it. If you didn't ask, I wouldn't mention that. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. That's not what concerns me. What concerns me is going out, putting on great fights, and providing for my wife and children. You know, and that's the bottom line for me. I wanted to win tonight. I obviously didn't do enough. I feel I won the fight, but obviously Chael's walking away the victor, and again, congratulations.
Do you think if you had a full training camp for this fight, you would have won?
No, I don't think that's the issue. I mean, I pretty much had a full training camp. I was training for a different fight, but my cardio was there. I think I've only got myself to blame. In the third round,